Yes, please.
My name is Sam Shear. I was born December the 25th, 1925, in Poland, the city of Bedzin. In 1939, the German come into my town. The only thing I will say is people will start to get scared. They start to dynamite my beautiful synagogue in Bendin was built in the 1300. Most of the stuff was brought in from Italy. Beautiful paintings, and some of the people who were still in the synagogue, when they started to shoot around, some older people like rabbis were studying in the synagogue. They started to run out, they were shot. Right away, they went to ask for the mayor of the city for a curfew. There's nobody allowed to get out of on the street from 7 o'clock in the morning to 7 o'clock in the evening. So what happened then, as you know, there was all the stores closed, and usually what happened, there were one bakery they permit to bake bread for the people of about, I would say, an estimate about 50,000 people, and most of them the Jewish people, okay? So what happened was very little to eat, so every day, my dad, I was the oldest son in my family, and my dad asked me to go out and stay in the line to see if I could get a bread for the family. And then what happened is, this was going on every day, you know, this started up in 1939, okay? In 1940, I was standing in the line in the city of Bedzin, Poland. A truck comes over, picked up all the young people, and took us away to a concentration camp. My age was 13 years old. That was before my bar mitzvah in 1940. As you know, when I went down to the camp, what happened? They put a line up in the front of my first camp because I was in 5 different kind of concentration camps. I spent 5 years in a concentration camp. And I tell you the reason why I'm in so many camps. So when I arrived in the concentration camp, what they done, they told us to line up the kids, I would say, who took us by truck away. And they shaved our heads, told us to take off all our clothes, all our belongings on the floor. And then I come an assessment, this was a German murder, and told us that you are here because we want you to work here. And he pointed with the finger, this is going to be where you're going to be sleeping. This was a barrack, approximately between 300 or 400 Jewish people. I want you to understand that all the Jewish Holocaust survivors, whether they come from Greece, or they come from Yugoslavia, or they come from Belgium, were always together because only Jews was together, okay? Now, what happened is, he told us this, here where you sleep, and you will go to sleep tonight, and tomorrow morning you have to get up 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. And when approximate to you, they brought up another Holocaust survivor, an older guy, and he says, here's your couple. He will tell you what to do, and he will tell you what you're going to get and what's going to happen in the morning when you get up. So in the nighttime, they give us a can. This is your dish, you know, a coffee can, if you haven't seen what it looks like, with a wire on, okay? And he says, this is going to be your dish. So you're going to get a bread, You have to decide, you divided your bread for 4 people, a little round bread, and we have to slide it on in 4 portions. And everybody will get a portion of the 4 bread, and this is for tomorrow morning. So I was told, since I just come in, don't keep it tomorrow morning, somebody's going to steal it. You better eat up that bread. So I ate up my bread, and they told me I'm going to get some tea. Esmeralda tea was water and some kind of grass cooked up, okay? Well, about 4 o'clock in the morning, first of all, I want to tell you this, we slept on bunks. There was no bed, there's no blankets, there are no pillows, nothing. And we slept like this. So I was told, and everybody here told us, we have to get up in the morning and line up in the front of the barrack. Because they're going to set up groups where you're going to go to work. I also want to tell you this, we got uniforms with stripes, striped suits, So when I sit down, he looked at me and he says to me, you're strong enough to be a cement mixer. Because a very good, big build kid at my age, Well, we got up, so it says you have to walk about 2 to 3 miles. If it's going to be longer, then a train is going to pick you up. So I was walking about 2 blocks, and they says, we're going to build a factory here to make ammunition for the German soldiers. And in the field, when they make the factory, was a farm. They took that away to farm from him, okay? So I come on a place where I'm going to work. The guy said to me, you have to take a sack of cement, a sack of sand, mix it up to just the bricklayer could lay the bricks. And he showed me how to mix with the hand. He says, you're going to provide the cement to the bricklayer. That far away. He says, you have a bucket to put in your cement and carry over to the bricklayer. And then if he needs bricks, you bring the bricks over to him and he would lay it. The bricks was big bricks. Well, I done my job. I looked around. Who am I? It's cold. It's November or October, Well, you start to work, he says. You get warmed up by working up. Well, I done it. I provided the stuff for him. I talked to the bricklayer. He didn't answer me. He was an old German, which you couldn't go to serve in the army. That was the bricklayer. About 12 o'clock, they said it's lunchtime. We take a half hour of lunch. Everybody will stay in line, and they have a stove where they cook out soup. So everybody stayed in line. They got a soup in the tin can, and you go back on the place where you're working. Because it used to be on sometimes 150, 200 people to build this thing. The name of the company, I still remember. The name of the company was Telefunken. That was an electronic company. That's what they're going to build. So this was going on to about 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, we had to line up again to go back to the camp. And when we lined up, they count how many people come back, because as you know, you cannot run away because we're surrounded by dogs, machine guns, and big lights, in Wyville, okay? Everybody was okay. We start to get, again, the food again. The same thing, the soup or the tea or the bread. This was going on almost every day, at least 6 days a week. 6 days, yeah. So after the 6 days, they told us we can have a rest, take a day off, okay? So you have a chance to come down and to wash yourself, your face and all. What happened is I become a supplier for the bricklayers, and they call me, ich bin ein Maurer. That means I'm a bricklayer. I was not the bricklayer. I was prepared for the bricklayer. In German, a bricklayer's name is Maurer. So my occupation was a cement mixture. So they got me on my name, 65,842, okay, with a yellow star, because I'm Jewish, okay. So anytime when they finished the factory, they transferred me to another camp because they thought I'm a professional, see? All right? So this first camp I was in Annenberg. And then they sent me to another camp, was Grossrosen, Flossenburg, Buchenwald, okay? I was, sending back and forth to different places. And one day, in 1942, I arrived to Görlitz, that's another concentration camp, and all of a sudden, I become sick on a typhus fever. They shut down the whole barracks because they was afraid the other people will get sick. They would have nobody to work with them, you understand? I slept with dead people for a whole week because, see, when I got the typhus fever, that's a very, very high fever with a big headache, and very painful. So finally my fever went, and I tried to talk to the guy next to me. He didn't answer. So from the barracks, as many people was, about 100 people survived. Then we had to dig a hole. They took us away to dig a hole, and we have to take all the dead people to bury them. And then we come back to the camp, okay? But as you know, it was very hard to eat, to live on a little bread they gave you, and a little soup. So my job is to learn from other Holocaust survivors, which done before me, told me, if you're hungry, you better start to look for worms and snakes on a field. And since there's a farm, they used to build on a farm certain kind of vegetables, okay, and special the like carrots. They left it down there, and used to have a piece of potatoes. But I was looking which one was moving. I picked it up and ate it, okay? And this was my survival all the time. I didn't get nothing different. So, to tell you, this was a hard job for me to do. And I also want to mention to you, because I'm going backwards now, that I lost my mother, 40 years old, my father, 42 years old, my sister, 10 years old, and my little brother. They went to Auschwitz. And the reason I didn't go to Auschwitz, which a lot of people ask me that question, when I went to the camp, Auschwitz was not built, the gas shelter. I went to camp in 1940. Most of the people come to Auschwitz in 1942 or 1943. In 1943, the Hungarian people come later, not 43, So what I want you to understand, that's my grandfather, my grandmother, all of my uncles. I lost 40 cousins. They all went to the gas chamber. But one person was survived from the gas chamber was my younger brother. Because he was blonde, he had blue eyes, they got a liking to him, and what they done to him, they says, you're not going this line. You're going to go in this line. Now, he told me this. I was not with him. So he worked for the commando. The commando is a person, when this railroad comes in with all the people, you have to take off all the clothes, okay? All the belongings, all the gold. He was the one who was looking for gold to sort for them. And he worked on it he was down there to, you want me to do it now or do it later? He was working down there and he survived with the concentration camp. But I go back to him now, okay? Let me finish my story.
Okay.
So as you know, my family died in Auschwitz completely, okay? Then, as you know, every camp I was in 41 and 42 and 43, I had a hard time because, as you know, in some the camps were 80,000 people. So you know there were different kind of nationalities. And every nationality had a different block and a bigger sign. If you are murder, you got a pink sign. You understand? If you are against Hitler, was red. There's some German, you know, all the kind of people, not just Jewish people, okay? But the Jewish people was always kept together in case they destroy them all at one time. So that means you was not allowed to say you're sick. If you says you cannot work, they took you out and they send you to Auschwitz. And that's where you're going. You were not allowed to ask us if you have a toothache or a backache, okay? So, you know, there's a very, very hard job to survive. And as you know, most of the people who come to the concentration camp was much older than I am. They already come with diseases, high blood pressure, you understand? Tuberculosis, all the kind of sickness. They didn't last too long. They died because they got no medication. There was no doctor. There was no. Well, I tried to say I would survive this because I understand that the war is getting shorter. The Russians are beating the Germans in the United States, in England. Everybody was working on them. So always said to me and to my couple friends who slept on the same bunk. These are not bunk, about 1 and 2. The younger guys had to go on the top. You know, the young and older ones. So what we were talking, we come home tired. You had nothing to cover you up. In the summertime, they open up the doors, that's the air comes in. You understand? But in the wintertime was a heck of a thing too. They closed it down and very little warm. So we tried to keep warm all together, all of us. It was a very big job, okay? As you see, when I'm talking to you, I'm talking a man who's going to be, in December this year, I'll be 98 years old. And I still got a memory. God is with me. As you see, not too many people will remember all that, what I'm telling you on the video. And I done a lot of talking here. And what I'm trying to say to you is the reason I'm doing it, to notify all the people who some of the people don't even believe there was a Holocaust. And I know not too many people cannot do what I'm doing now. They cannot do it because some of them are not well. The mind don't work no more. I want you to understand, many nights I don't sleep in the night. I dream that I'm in a Holocaust and in some kind of concentration camp. Now, what can I say more? I worked and I sent to cross roads to another camp. Most of the camp was very big. My biggest camp was Buchenwald. When I arrived to Buchenwald, I was very surprised that when I got up in the morning, 3 o'clock, the orchestra was playing when I walk out to work to the big door. And then in German, they say, Arbeiten macht das Leben süß. They say, working make the life sweet. And when we worked out down there, and this was going on again, they always called me the Maurer. So whenever I come to every camp, I would step away with the other people to tell them this is the guy who's going to mix the cement. I work for Krupp. That's the company made gas where people died, in the whole concentration camp. And I work for other Germans, which to provide machine guns and all that stuff. Well, one day, February 1945, I'm making shorter for you, okay? I'll try the best I can. Because in the Holocaust Center in Washington was 4 hours.
Wow.
Well, in 1945, in February, all of a sudden, there's Germans, murderers come in and woke us all up to go outside. And they said that we're going to get out of this camp and we're going to walk. There was 500 people, groups. And every day we walk in the morning. In the nighttime, we stopped on farms, and the farms cooked for us 2 potatoes. You cannot run away from that place. You were surrounded with so many dogs and German murders, okay, and machine guns. In the nighttime, they got all the kind of lights around, Well, this was going on from February, okay? We keep going. But if you couldn't go, you go into a forest. That's where they shoot you. That's where you lay down. Nobody bugs you. And you keep going. Whoever could still walk, okay, we had to drag him into the person. Can you imagine? You drag a cousin maybe, into the thing, and they gone and shoot you. This was February. March, the same thing. You can see it's getting shorter. Bombs was flying all over the road. English plane, American plane, bombing left to hell. And we started to talk to each other. We think maybe we will survive that. But in the meantime, every day we lost more people. They couldn't walk. Don't we walk from Buchenwald to Munich, I walked, okay? I presume maybe 200 miles with 2 potatoes, okay? And I keep walking with the rest of my friend, my brothers, okay? And all of a sudden, May the 1st, a German mayor, okay? A German mayor stopped the assessment and told them they're surrounded by the American army. You better let them go here, okay? They start to run away. They left us in the middle of the street. The name of the street is Lebanon by Laufen. It's over Bayern. It's Bavaria, not 25 miles away from Munich. Right away, the German, as a matter of fact, I want to say, the German wrote a book about us, and I think my son has a copy of it, okay? The name of this town. And all of a sudden, the mayor ran and brought some nurses from the hospital, okay? In the meantime, the army comes in, and they tried to talk to us in English, and we couldn't speak English. So one captain walked down the front. You could see we are Jews. He says, do you speak Yiddish? And we says, we are Jewish. He says, no more war for you, okay? He says, right away, we're going to take care of you. We're going to clean you up and put you to a sanatorium, okay? In the meantime, the name, Stanley Posner. How do you like that? I remember this guy's name. He was from New York, he told me. Took a picture of the 28 people who survived, okay? Then he come back and give us copy to remember what we look like. And so happened, I have a picture of that to show it to you, this I'm inside with the rest of them, okay? Right away, they put us in a hospital. They took up all the wounds. We're full of wounds, louse, sores. And the doctors come in and they start to clean us up, get us dressed. They went to German Nazis. They asked to give them some clothes from the sons who got killed in the war, you know. So they put anything they can, okay? But in the meantime, the picture you're going to see, we didn't get the clothes yet. We just some kind of clothes. I don't even know what the hell it was. We couldn't eat for a long time. They used to feed you with oatmeal, okay, and some kind of mother soaks, whatever they called it. Is that right? I still remember. And milk. And start to listen. All of a sudden, the Red Cross come in and ask everybody's name. And no, they said, we're going to take your name. We were going to see if you have any family around in the world, or maybe some people who survive, okay? While I'm in the hospital, here comes my living brother, my younger brother. I didn't recognize him. And I stood up and hugged him. And he says, just don't ask what happened. He didn't want to tell me. He was there. He saw them, okay? So he says, pretty soon when you feel good, you stay here for a while, then I take you to a camp, a DP camp, you know? And the camp, the name was Feldafing. But for a while, I want to finish up my story before I go to the camp. As you know, my brother was liberated in Dachau. He went on the same problem that I went through from Auschwitz, because they didn't have to kill everybody. They destroyed all the gas chambers, because nobody should see them. And I says, how did you get away? And he says, Shia, my name is not Sam. My name was not even Sam. I will tell you about that. They changed my name here. He said, Shia, they liked me. I was a blonde kid and blue eyes. And one of the Germans was sorry for me to put me in a gas chamber, give me a jump. But he says, I went through the same thing. He will graduate in Dachau. My younger brother just died last year. If you go to Cleveland, the very high thing, he used to go with groups to Auschwitz. He just passed away about 7, maybe 8 or 9 months. His name is Leon Shear. Before I go farther, my name was not Sam. When I come to the United States, well, let's go before the United States. So I don't want to mix you up, but see, I'll try to give you 2 places.
That's okay.
As you know, I got together with my brother, okay? And my brother told me that we're going to get out from the TP camp, because there were so many people, you know, so many people, women and men in the same. They gave us blocks with a where the German soldiers were living. That's the blocks of Feldafing where people were living. And right away, the UNRWA, the Jewish Federation, brought in some clothing to change us. And they come to bring some stuff to cook for us, okay? And he says to me, he said, Shia, we're not used to stay like this. We survived. Let's get out of here. Let's not think about a concentration camp, no one. So he took me. See, he was in better shape than I was. Look, when he was in Auschwitz, he got to eat. You understand? Because the people have bread, they have to leave it, throw it away. He says, we're going to go out from here, and I found a nice place. They call it Feldafing, Starnberg. Starnberg was a resort, not far away from Feldafing. And he took us to a German office, and they gave us free rent. The guy who was going to move into the apartment, but they were Nazi, and you're going to stay here, and they're going to take care of your clothing, shine your shoes, and get you dressing. That was their punishment. But to eat, there was a UNRWA, a special kitchen for us. Whoever's the survivors got to this little town, that's where we went breakfast and everything else. So he said to me, you know, I like to learn a trade. He says, you just finished 7 grades. When I finished school in Poland, after the 7th grades, the war broke out. See? He says, I want you to learn something in case we have no family left. All families gone, but we didn't have no family in the United States. Most Holocaust survivors got cousins. They could find out about them, they brought them here. We didn't have that chance. So I had to depend on the Jewish Federation what to do with me, okay? All of a sudden, my brother found out from the Jewish Federation, see, he is an orphan, they can get him to the United States as an orphan. So he had to separate it with me. And he was living in Pittsburgh when I come here. But the orphan place, when he first came, it was to Cleveland, Ohio. Eventually, he settled down here in Pittsburgh, and he kept writing to me, okay? Says, I will try to take you down here. I make shortcuts for you because it's going to take a long time, everything. You want to come back from war, I tell you. You know, and he says, Shia, this is my Jewish name. My Hebrew name, my mother named me Yeshua. Can you imagine? Yeshua was Jesus. And me born December the 25th, 1925. Every Gentile tried to touch me. You listen to it pretty good, right? So as you know, so he found, see, when they took me away, to work, okay, and when I got out from the camp, there's a registration in Buchenwald. My name is in all the camps because I got papers because I write a letter, okay? So he says to me, maybe you can go as an orphan. He says, why don't you take my birthday, what I changed to? Maybe you come over here. It didn't work. I went to the consul, he says, you're more than, you're not an orphan. You're a pretty big guy here to do that. And I couldn't come here. So then the United Jewish Federation told him, that they can bring me over here if he can find a company who could guarantee me a job. Does I come here to Pittsburgh they will give me, they will pay for me to come here. And all of a sudden, my brother worked for Bloom Company in Pittsburgh, an ornamental iron shop. He went to Mr. Bloom. Okay, I remember all the name. Hyman Bloom. And he says, Mr. Bloom, I have a brother in Germany, is also a Holocaust survivor. Can you give me a paper that says, if my brother can come here, you will guarantee him a job? He did give him. All of a sudden, the American consul called me, says, you better come in. We're going to examine you. We want to take a blood test of you. We want to take x-rays of you. If you're okay, everything, then you go to America. Well, I was the happiest person in the world, okay? Well, I come to America. I come to Pittsburgh in 1949, in February. I have no job. They were on strike. The steel mills went on strike. I got no job. And I cannot depend on my brother, you understand, to pay rent for me and him, because I moved in with him, you understand? I lived on Hastings Street in Square Hill. I fenced the street yet, on the third floor, but an old couple, Jewish couple, you know. Well, I need a job. They say you have to go to the employment office. You have to go for Social Security first. I come to Social Security. They says, what is your name? I said, Shia, in Yiddish. I didn't go to Hebrew even, you know. How do you spell it? S-Z-E-J-E-R. I said, can he give you another name, you in the United States? I don't care what you call me. He says, how about Sam? Can you imagine? Get a new name? It's Sam Shear. They changed my first name, but they changed my second name. Just a different spelling. See, the spelling in Poland was S-Z-E-J-E-R, Shear. He has S-H-E-A-R, right? Okay. So I went on the Sam Shear, was born 1927. I had papers coming out of the camp with that, you know. They changed it down in Munich, my name. And I got papers with the same name. But I have to tell you the truth, my name. I want to tell you the truth, how old I am. You understand? What do you think? I found a job. They sent me to a Jewish employment office on Penn Avenue to talk in Yiddish to Mr. Bernstein. How the hell can I remember that name? He says to me, I can find you a job in a junkyard on West Carson Street. The name of the company is West End Auto Wrecking. I says to him, I don't care what kind of job. I have to help my brother pay rent and food. I come to the job. Here comes Mr. Kalik. His first name was George. He says to me in Yiddish, and I will tell you what it is. I was buffing generators when they take off from the junk cars, okay? And he says, and then after that, if you learn to buff them up, we see if you can spray them, because they rebuild the generators. I got a check of $26. I says to him, how come so little? He says, you don't speak English. He paid me 65 cents an hour, people. 65 cents an hour. So I says, I better go to school. Why work in the junkyard? I went to Taylor Allardyce. Graduate high school. In the nighttime, okay? What do you think? The Internal Revenue would draft me to the Army. The Marines, they've qualified to go to, I'm laughing now. I went to the post office, and he says, you qualified to be with the Marines, you're strong enough. He says, if you went through the concentration camp, you sure can go through this. But in the meantime, I met my wife in a church in 1949, and since I didn't have nobody but my brother, I fell in love with the girl on a wedding in a church, in a Polish church. And I couldn't speak English to her. She's here, she's still living here. I spoke Yiddish and she spoke yes or no. And we're going a little bit fun now, you know. So I met her, and then I used to meet her because I live in Shadyside and she lived up the Hill District. She lived in a project, very poor family. I would go through that with her. I met her with, you know what the Jewish delicatessen is now? There used to be a bowling alley. Why, you know about it? No? Then I met her down to go bowling with her. And I still made $26 a week, okay? But she worked for Fisher Scientifics, and she made $20 a week, okay? I figure, why not, if we love each other and like each other, why don't we get married? So she took me to where the mother lives. Took me to her mother. Her mother was a widow. Her husband died in the First World War, was gassed by the Germans, and spent 17 years in the Western, in the Veterans Hospital. That's when he died, okay? That's when my wife was born, he got sick, was paralyzed, okay? So since I got married, she became pregnant. The army couldn't take men to the service if the wife was pregnant. So I got out from the Marines. Okay. Then I got married in Rabbi Pupka's little shul. That's where I got married, okay? Because Rabbi Pupka was a very, very big friend of her father. He was very religious. See? So he didn't charge me because I got no money to give him. So they took me down. She come from the project, the Hill District, and I come from Square Hill by streetcar to Rabbi Pupka's synagogue. He got married. Can you imagine that? Well, when I got married, we find out this. I have family in Canada, in Toronto. Right away, my brother got in touch with them. They all come down and see me, you know. So they says, you come with me to Canada. We got a passport for you. And spend your honeymoon in Canada. And my honeymoon was great. New York and Toronto, New York hotel in Toronto. When I come back, they rented up an apartment. Then I told my wife's mother, her name was Libby, Libby, you coming with me. You're going to be my mother too. Just take what you can. You're going to live with me. She lived with me for 47 years, gentlemen. I took care of her. But the biggest thing is, she was a more happy person because she got a baby named Barbara, my oldest daughter was born. And she already helped my wife out, okay? So one day, I come back from the junkyard. A neighbor where I used to live, on Highway Street in East End, just to be, you don't belong to work down there in a junkyard. He says, would you like to become an insurance agent? He told me what to do, knock doors. I was the man of the year with the insurance company. The insurance company's name was Interocean, not a famous company. All of a sudden, I become a big guy. The Prudential Insurance Company, Metropolitan, everybody run over to me. They want me to go to work for them. Yeah. The first year, 1963, I started with them but the other company started in 1952, you know. But this one, 1963. I became the Rookie of the Year of the Prudential Insurance Company. In 1964, the Man of the Year. I'm going on a convention to Florida. Isn't that right? My wife says we're going to look for a house. Looks like we're doing pretty good. Well, to tell you the truth, I've got a beautiful home on Rosemont Street I bought. I just paid $13,000 for it. Now it's worth maybe $300. What happened? I went to Miami, which they paid, okay? Which, you know, my wife went with me. And they presented to me with a trophy. And when they presented the trophy to Sam Shear as the Man of the Year, and I want to tell you, he is a Holocaust survivor. Right away, the back of the hall, Martin Luther King was there. He went to the president of the Prudential Insurance Company. I want to have lunch with this gentleman. I had some question for him. He wanted to know about the ghetto. He wanted to know about the concentration camp. We had lunch, a nice conversation. You know what I asked him? What are you doing here? He says, I'm here to see how many people Prudential promote the black people to the job. Isn't that nice? I got 3 children. I got 6 grandchildren. I got 4 great-grandchildren, now 5, another one will just come in, okay? They all went to school. They all went to college. They all graduated. My son said, Dad, I want to work for you. He wanted to be an accountant or engineer or lawyer, I don't know. Gentlemen, I was a very good teacher. He has his own company with the same name, Shear. What I'm trying to tell you, look, Hitler tried to kill me. Look what I brought back. There's some people who still don't believe we had a Holocaust. People were dying. And I want to educate young children, which I'm doing right now in schools. I'm still doing it. One child picked up the hand and has a question for me, like you did. You know what he said to me? Are you still Jewish? Because I told him why I went to the camp. We have to educate the young children. They should understand what was going on. We should have peace with everybody, you know? We should hate each other. Because, see, the Jewish people are no different than other people.